Well, welcome. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and spend some time with me here today. It's wonderful. As you saw, the topic today is how to make 2013 your best year ever. And you're probably thinking, well, it's already now, middle of January. I either did set some resolutions and I've already broken them, or I didn't even do it this year, and now that we're into January, it's probably too late. Well, my experience is that actually most people, that's how they set their resolutions. They give it a thought for a moment or two on January 1st. Maybe they even write it down on somewhere. I'm going to do this more, I'm not going to do this more. And that's about all they do. Well, guess what? That isn't enough. And what I find is, what's the real fault of that way of thinking is, it's the wrong time and it's the wrong process. Because here's what's going to make you feel really good about the fact that maybe you haven't done your resolutions yet. Don't do them January 1. It's the worst time possible. Think about it. You're oversugared, overspent, overpeopled. Who can do their best clear thinking about their life on January 1st? I certainly can't. So what I highly recommend is you totally get rid of that thinking from now on and give yourself through January. I actually use the Chinese New Year as my time for having to do this. And this year that's well into February 10th. So there's still plenty of time. And I don't know about you, but I feel like in January, momentum gets going. Ideas start flowing. The holidays and all that distraction is past. So really, this is the ideal month to do this process. So you're on schedule. You're not behind. That's the good news. Now, the second thing is you really need a process, a plan. And that's what I want to give you today. And in fact, you're getting a workbook that Renee is passing out to you. This is not meant for you to have to go through it and fill this all out right now. In fact, if you just want to even put it aside and just take it with you, that's great. It's a follow-up. What I want to do is interest you, to get you to think that maybe this is doable, and get you started on the process today. So relax, don't feel like you have to fill it all out. Listen, give me some feedback. We'll just have a fun, interactive time today, and you can do some of the harder work afterward. Okay, so a process to help you make this your best year ever. Well, I like to do things that are simple and that people already have familiarity with. And so let's think about this in terms of something that you probably already do. Plan a vacation, right? That sounds fun. That sounds relaxing and enjoyable. How many of you last year planned and took a fun vacation? Yay, almost everybody. Okay, then you know how to do that. So guess what? You know how to plan your life. All you have to do is transfer some of that same thought process that you did for the trip planning into this year. So what do I mean? Well, what you need to do is you need to do 4 things, which you probably did when you were planning your trip. First of all, think about where else you went. What other trips did you take? What worked, what didn't in the past for you? Secondly, what would you like to do this year, or this new trip, this new plan? What would you like to do on your next adventure? Third, what fears or doubts or negative thoughts do you have about taking a certain trip or vacation? What worries or concerns do you have? And then finally, how are you going to fuel up? How are you going to fuel up your car, your body, all of that, so that you can get from point A to point B, right? Simple. Those are things you do naturally. Well, let's just do those same things when it comes to this year. Let's take a look at what happened last year, what worked, and maybe what didn't work, or what's still on the agenda. Let's take a look at what are you excited about? What do you want to do and be and have this year? Third, and probably where we're going to spend the bulk of our time today, what holds you back? So many people can tell me what they want their life to look and feel like, but then something gets in the way. A fear, a worry, a negative thought, a limiting belief. So I really want to give you some ideas about how to not have those things hold you up this year. And then finally, how are you going to keep yourself energized? How are you going to be full of time and pizzazz and mojo to keep on track with what you want your life to look like? So we're going to spend some time on each one of those areas with lots of follow-up work in the workbook that you have. So let's take a look at this idea of what happened in 2012. I don't think we spend enough time patting ourselves on the back and being proud of our successes. It's really challenging for people to do this. Somewhere along the lines we've gotten this message that we shouldn't toot our own horn, that we shouldn't be boastful or brag about what we did well. Well, you know what? I don't see it as boasting, and I don't see it as bragging. I see it as allowing yourself to remind yourself that you're smart, talented, and capable, that you've been able to get a lot of things done in the past, and therefore you'll be able to get a lot of things done this year. It also reminds you that when you put your intentions out there, resources and ideas seem to show up. That whole serendipity thing. So by remembering that that happened to you last year, it's going to help you remember that it will happen this year. So I want to take a few minutes here and provide you with the chance to share your successes. Who had something that they are really proud of that they did in 2012? See, there's that shyness, there's that inability to want to stand up and say yay. But you know what, this is a great forum because everybody here is, warm and inviting and wants you to be your best. So come on, someone has to have a share. Yes? Right here. Mm-hmm.
I was assigned to come up with a magazine for humanities and social sciences. All by myself, no experience, I'd never written a feature article in my life. We put it together with the help of some students, and we won platinum with the Marcon Awards.
Yay! Yay! That's awesome. That is excellent. That's one you really should be proud of, and you should toot your own horn a little more often. Who else? Yes? Finished her PhD. Now, is that not worthy of yay, tooting your horn a little bit? And that really tells you that you know how to stick with something and create a plan and stay on schedule. That's great data to mine for any future endeavors. Excellent. A couple more. Who else? Yes? Oh, I see. She published a book. Well, excellent. Does she want to share anything about it? Do you want to share the title? A History on Cedar City with Arcadia Publishing. Excellent. Congratulations. Being an author myself, I can really appreciate the effort that takes. All right, I saw another hand. Yep.
Oh, I just chaired a student-athlete committee that gathered 23,000 pounds of food.
23,000 pounds of food. Wow, that made a difference. Yes, and that was something that took effort, but not probably the Herculean effort you would think it would take to raise that amount of food because others joined in and helped carry the burden of that. Excellent. Anybody else for 2012? Any kudos? Okay, well, I won't push it, but spend a little time thinking about that. Don't go too quickly into 2013 without at least thinking about what did 2012 say about my ability to get things done. Now, also think about what didn't get done. What is still on your to-do list from 2012 that you're going to carry forward to 2013? And I want to give you a couple words of caution here. Don't just mindlessly bring something forward. Think about whether or not you really want to do it this year. I find this with like weight loss. A lot of people put it on their list every single year. And they beat themselves up that they don't do it, and they kind of lose steam, but they have this sense of regret and feeling bad about themselves. You know what? Maybe you just drop it off the list for this year. Maybe you give yourself a breather. Maybe you think about it in different terms. Maybe instead of I'll lose weight, maybe it's I'll learn not to have my sugar cravings get out of control. Or maybe it's I'll learn how to have a healthy breakfast this year. Or I'll actually move my body. Try to rephrase it. Try to create something that gets you excited about it this year. Don't just beat yourself up and carry it forward. I find that we tend to do that a lot. I call it shoulding all over ourselves. And actually, we need to stop saying, I should, I should, I should. And instead, it should be, I want, I want, I want. So think about 2012, but don't necessarily blindly carry things forward. Okay? So after you've spent a little time thinking about 2012, now it's time to think about 2013. 11 and a half months are ahead of you. Wow. Most people, when I suggest that they start thinking about the year to come, go right into the place of what do I want to do and what do I want to have? And I think that's because we're such victims of our consumer-driven society, where it's all about having, acquiring the latest, the greatest, so that everybody else will think we're up to speed and we're cool and we'll keep up with the Joneses and we'll follow what the advertisers tell us we need to have to make ourselves happy. We really tend to focus on the doing and the having. I found that that tends to lead us to a pretty unsatisfying place in our life. Because all that does is make us want to have more doing and having. We kind of get on this endless cycle. And I call that the have, do, be model. And I don't think that's that successful. I think that's living from the outside in. You're letting everybody on the outside, all the forces, all the voices, tell you what you should do and have. I like to turn it on its head. I prefer to look at this as the be, do, have model. I want you to think more in the front end about who do you want to be in 2013? What are the values you really want to focus on embodying? What are the parts of the authentic you that are dying to really come out and be expressed? What are the things that are most important to you? Who do you want to be by the end of 2013? Do you want to be healthier and well-rested? Do you want to be financially secure? Do you want to be passionate and excited about life? Those are the kinds of overarching quests, overarching goals that will sustain you throughout the year. And you're probably already thinking, well, yeah, if I can figure out who I want to be, then what do I need to do and have to make that a reality falls pretty naturally. And that's the secret. Let the doing and the having be part of what will help you be. And I know this idea of who do you want to be is kind of intangible. It's kind of hard to get your arms around at first. Here's an exercise that might help. Think about how you want people to talk about you as part of your legacy. God forbid that your eulogy is given soon, but think about what you want people to say when they're describing you as a person. It's probably not, oh, she had the greatest car. Oh, he had a cool house. Oh, he had a nice, jacket. It's probably more about the things that you were as far as your being, that you were compassionate, open, available to people, smart, able to move forward in life, challenging to others, all the things that are what we really want our legacy to be. Think about that in terms of this year. The reason I like this idea of focusing on the being on the front end is because it helps you create a theme for the year. And that's what I want you to think about rather than a to-do list or a list of resolutions. Come up with a theme, because a theme is fun. A theme is memorable, and a theme will stay with you throughout the year. So let me give you a couple of examples of themes that I've come up with over the last few years. Last year, at the beginning of the year, I knew it was going to be a year of a lot of change. I had been working pretty much, full-time at Red Mountain Resort in southern Utah, and it looked like there was some shifts and changes happening there. I wasn't going to be on staff there as much and as long. I had some new opportunities I wanted to pursue, a second book, some things I wanted to do. So I knew it was going to be a year of change. And so what I decided was by the end of the year, I wanted to be very comfortable with change. I wanted to be gracious and grateful through change. That was my mantra. That was my theme. And it really helped me as twists and turns and curves came along throughout the year. I would remember, be grateful and gracious through change. Don't burn bridges. Be open to new ideas. Finish your job well. All the things that helped me create a very good transition. So that was my theme for last year. This year, I am really stepping into the 21st century when it comes to technology and social media. Because as I sort of relaunch my business and get myself out there more, I have to take advantage of these new resources. And so my theme, my mantra, my being for this year is I want to be comfortable and confident with technology. Comfortable meaning be able to set some limits and not have it invade my life too much. Confident, skilled, have resources, have people that can help me. So you can see how that theme decides my doing and the having. If I'm going to be comfortable and confident with technology, what am I going to have to do? Well, I'm going to have to learn how to use my gadgets. I'm going to have to spend some time every day doing my social media platform. I'm going to have a smartphone. I'm going to have a good computer person available to me. So that's helping me figure out what I need to do and have, so by the end of the year I can say I am comfortable and I'm going to be comfortable and confident with my technology. So think about what you want to be at the end of 2013. Now, as I've been talking, does anybody have a beginning, an idea maybe of what they want to be by the end of 2013? Anybody given this any thought previously, or did I spark any ideas? Anything anybody feels like maybe throwing out there, or we can help you shift it and change it? Not yet? I know, it takes a little while, doesn't it? Well, yes ma'am.
My mother and I are going to go hike rim to rim on the Grand Canyon in November, so I guess maybe my team would be preparing for that.
Yes.
Mentally and physically.
Yes, I will be prepared mentally and physically. Yes. Yes, and maybe even I will be able to fully enjoy it and take the lessons from that I need to take. So you might even have a couple of spin-off themes from that. But that's a great one where even though it's a doing and a having, you can frame it in terms of a larger context. Great. And congratulations, that's a great goal to have. Yeah. Make sure you have somebody waiting for you at South Rim with your favorite food or drink. That's what a lot of the guests that they do at the Red Mountain Resort, they have a watermelon, sherbet, a beer, different things people have wanted to have waiting for them. Anybody else have any ideas about this? Not yet. Okay, well, give it some thought. It's kind of a fun exercise, and I would say share it, speak it. Don't just keep it in here, because the more that you tell people what your theme is, what you want to be, do, and have, the more accountability you're building in. When I wrote my first book, which is called Life is a Do-Over, You Can Chart a New Path in Life, which, by the way, was published with the help of Lana Jordan, sitting right here. So don't know if you all know that she's also a wonderful editor and publisher, but she doesn't do much of that anymore. She's working here full time. But when I was doing my first book, I told everybody that I was writing it. Why? Because every time I saw them, they would say, "How's your book coming? What's going on with that?" And I had to be accountable. I had to keep it in front of me. So do speak it, do share it. Okay, so hopefully I've got you excited a little bit, or at least interested in this idea of what do you want to be, do, and have for 2013. What I suspect will be one of the biggest blocks. Let me just grab a quick sip of water. One of the biggest blocks to that process will be fears and doubts about who you are and what you can accomplish. This is so common. Probably as a life coach, the bulk of the work that I do with people is helping them overcome fears and limiting beliefs. Because I can usually get them to this place of excitement about what they want their life to look and feel like, but then all the blocks, all the limiting thoughts start to come in. Sometimes I actually call that the committee that sits over here, and lobs in, oh, you can't, you shouldn't, you won't, you don't. Well, I really want to give you some concrete tools today to help you with fears and doubts. Now, I've broken it into these two different areas. Fears on the one hand, doubts or limiting beliefs, negative thoughts on the other hand. The reason I break them into two categories is because I find that they show up in different places in our life, and different tools work for each of these. So you may or may not like the way I break them up, but I think you're going to find that it makes sense to think of them in different ways. So let's start with fears. Fears are fairly easy to recognize because they show up in your emotions. They show up in your body. You might get sweaty palms. You might get your heart palpitating. Your stomach might turn. You might feel weak-kneed. You might feel lightheaded. Fear at least tends to give us a clue that it's coming upon us by how it's showing up in our body. Now, fears run the gamut, and you could probably tell me a variety of ones. I won't have you do that right now, but I find they typically come around the idea that I'm going to fail, I'm going to be unloved, I'm going to be poor, I'm afraid of intimacy, I'm afraid of death. In fact, you think death would be the big one, but you know that people are actually more afraid of public speaking than they are of death? That's kind of an odd fact, but that's true. But fears tend to come to us into our bodies somewhere. And what I find about fears is they can usually be worked on either with yourself, with a friend, with a life coach. If they get to the place where they're crippling phobias and they really derail you and you really can't seem to get over them, then I think it's time to seek the help of a professional therapist. And they can be very helpful in getting you in a fairly short amount of time to uncover where they came from and to give you some good strategies. But not everybody needs to get to that level of outside intervention right away. Let me give you some suggestions for how you might deal with run-of-the-mill fears. And I'm going to give you one of mine that will help work through this process. Now, one thing that we didn't say too much about in the introduction is I actually have a secret. I am a recovering lawyer. Spent about 15 years as a trial attorney and a city attorney in California, and when I decided to shift from that into something I felt that was more authentic for me, that I had more passion around, which is life coaching, I had a lot of fear. I mean, you can imagine what was going through my head, and as I talked to people about it, the kind of fears that I got from other people. The big one I found was I had the fear of failure. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not good as a life coach? What if I can't get clients? What if? And that's a big clue that you're dealing with a fear when you do the what if. But what if? When you find yourself going to those weird scenarios, I at times would have myself homeless living under a bridge, Now, of course, I've got skills and talents and I could do something else, but in my dark moments, that's where the fear voices took me. What if? So here's what I found helpful about conquering my fear of failure. First of all, I got to know it. And this is a big, big tip. Look your fear in the face. Ask yourself, what's it telling me about myself? What voices does it use? What memories does it drag up? When does it come? My fear is kind of tricky. My fear doesn't come during the light of day when I'm feeling good and competent. My fear comes at 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm flipping and flopping in bed and I can't get to sleep and I worry and oh my gosh. So because I know what it says and when it comes, I've created my fear toolkit. And this is something you can do. Think about when does your fear come and what can you have at the ready to deal with it. Mine is in my bedside dresser table. I have suggested to myself that I keep a log in my own handwriting of all the things that prove that I'm smart, talented, and capable. All the things that show I've not failed very often, and when I have, I've learned lessons and recovered well. A lot of evidence in my life would suggest failure shouldn't be a big issue, but yet that 2 o'clock in the morning voice can get me all riled up. So when I force myself to look at this list, it's my own admissions that I'm smart, talented, and capable. And that's pretty powerful evidence to counteract what the fear voice is telling me. I also find in there it's great to have a few photographs of me doing things where I push the fear envelope. Top of Angel's Landing in Zion, speaking to a large crowd of people. Different things that show me at my best fearless times when I can say, fear really shouldn't be a big part of who I am. Because look at me when I'm not in the fear place. I'm amazing. I also find it's helpful to have some spiritual readings. Whatever perspective you find helpful. I like the sort of daily reading books that I can just turn to that day of the calendar, and it will give me a positive reminder of who I really am, the truth of who I really am. Because here's the trick. The fear voice does not tell the truth. It is not going to remind you of your best self and who you really are at your source. But if you can have some kind of a reading, a booklet, something that does that, you can go back to remembering what you should remember about yourself. So having a fear toolkit handy. Maybe your fears come at work. Maybe it's when you have really challenging meetings. Maybe it's when you're dealing with, your kids and you're not sure if you're, doing the kind of parental guidance you should. Think about when and where it might be helpful to have a couple, 2, 3 things in your fear toolkit ready. Because if you can cut fear off at the knees as soon as possible, it does not get its tentacles into you. But if you let it get in there and you let it really take hold and grow roots, it's harder and harder to pull out. So be willing to deal with fear head on instead of avoiding it and skirting it. Because here's the trick with fear. It's a big, ugly monster. But if you can start to name it, talk back to it, deal with it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And yes, it never completely goes away. You're probably hoping I had the magic cure, the magic bean to have you take to make fear go away. I don't. But I can tell you that I can help you make it much, much smaller and manageable. And it starts with dealing with it sooner and dealing with it head on. Now, another strategy that's really fun and doable is to stop feeding your fear so much. Okay? Is it any wonder that when our fears get to be really fat, sassy, and happy, we look back and we go, wow, I gave it 3 hours of my attention today. Well, yeah. Well, how much time did you give your dreams, your possibilities, the things you want to have in your life, your goals? How much time did you give those? About 10 minutes. And you gave your fears 3 hours. Any wonder that the fears have control? So here's what you do. You starve your fears and feed your dreams. You consciously reduce the amount of time you spend in the fear zone. I even suggest, if you really are the kind of person who has to get into the fear place and worry and muddle, that you set a timer and you do that for 15 minutes. And then you're done. You can do it again tomorrow when you get your next 15-minute segment, but today you're done with the fear. Now you got to shift into 15 minutes of the dream place, the possibilities, what could happen for you. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to clients and they've gotten, excited, telling me about what they want to have more of in their life, why they came to a coach, what the next step is in their life. So they spend 5 or 10 minutes telling me about that, but then they spend 30 minutes telling me all the reasons why it can't, it won't, it didn't, it shouldn't happen. And I'm thinking, wow, if this is any representation of how you're speaking to yourself, it's no wonder that the fears have all the power. So spend a little more time. Create a dream board, a vision board of what you want. This is a really fun thing to do. Get a piece of poster board. Cut pictures out of magazines or photographs or download sayings or type up some quotes and put it on a board and keep that visible. Look at it. Look at it often and remind yourself that that's what you want to have in your life, because if you're spending time in that zone, guess what? You're not spending time in the fear zone. You can't do both at the same time. So speak about your dreams to positive people. Get ideas. Get other possibilities from them. And then also notice when those serendipitous knocks on the door come and go, oh, so-and-so knows somebody who can help me. Oh, I've got an idea about a project you could work on. Oh, have you talked to this person? They're doing the same thing. Don't you love it when those things happen? Well, they're going to happen more often if you spend a little time imagining what you want. So don't spend so much time in the fear place. Spend more time in the dream place and the possibilities. Finally, a strategy that I actually saw Dr. Phil do, and I used to be a fan of his, and he's kind of gotten a little bit sensational as of late, but in his first couple of years, he had some really good shows, and one of them was on dealing with fears. And he had a woman on there who played the piano, and she played beautifully by herself. In fact, they put a camera in her home, and nobody was around to watch her, but she played, and it was flawless and no mistakes. But she would make all kinds of mistakes and freeze up when she did it in front of people. So, Dr. Phil asked her, well, okay, so what if? Like, he had her on stage with him, and he says, so what if we had a piano backstage and we were able to turn it and bring it out, and what if you sat down and played? What would happen? And she said, well, I'd probably freeze up. And he said, so then what? What if that happened? Well, I'd be embarrassed. Okay, and then what? Well, I'd probably run off stage. Okay, and then what? You wouldn't die, you wouldn't be driven out of town, you wouldn't be branded a loser and have to walk around town like this, right? You would survive. And she kind of had to concede, well, okay, maybe I've let my fear take me to a place that really isn't reasonable. So, of course, he brought a piano on stage, and he sat her down, and he had her play, and she froze. And you could tell the audience was sending her amazing love and energy and positive thought. And she was able to, I think because her brain said nothing bad's really going to happen because she just had the conversation with Dr. Phil, she was able to then go into playing and played beautifully and got through the whole piece. And so I think it's really helpful to do that. Do the what if game. What if? So what if, Cindy, you give a talk and you give a new workshop or you have something on, a new project as a life coach. What if it doesn't work? Well, I'll try to figure out why it didn't work. I'll improve. I'll do better next time. I'll realize I'm not perfect. And guess what? Nobody's perfect. I'm human. I mean, all the things that I would tell myself would happen really weren't part of the realistic what if scenario. What ifs can be really helpful to play with somebody else because they can look at you and go, come on, that's not going to happen. That's not even possible. So if you find you really are stuck by what if, play it out. Play it out to the end. Write that down so that when that starts to play again, that tape, you can pull out your cheat sheet and go, wait a minute. The worst case scenario is, and I can probably deal with this. Because the fear voices just tell us all kinds of crazy thoughts. Now, I said there was another category, and that's what I call doubts, limiting beliefs, negative thoughts about ourselves. These can be a little more challenging to locate because we have operated with these as the rules of the road, the rules of engagement, for so long that we sometimes don't even realize these are things that are blocking us. They come from parents, society, cultures, maybe bad experiences in the past, and we need to somehow get out of ourselves and see what our thought patterns are. And a great way to do this is think about a goal, something you really want to be, do, or have by the end of the year. When you think about that, and you think about, I won't make it, I won't get there, I'll probably be a failure at that. Why? What is the story that you'll tell yourself? This is very helpful in the weight loss area. I've seen people, weight loss therapists, do this with their clients. They actually have them look at a camera and say, okay, I'm talking to myself in 6 months, and I did not reach my weight loss goals. Here's all the reasons why I didn't. I'm lazy, I'm not disciplined, I never stick with anything, I don't bring in the right kind of support, whatever the thing, the stories you tell yourself about yourself, why you fail. Well, think about that. What would you tell yourself if you didn't reach your goal? That's probably a limiting belief. You can also uncover your limiting beliefs by looking for 2 words. When you say but or because. I would like to do that, but I'm too old. I'd like to do that, but I'm not smart enough. Well, the reason I didn't do it is because I don't have enough time. Oh, and buts and becauses are often our limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves about ourselves. They may or may not be true, but if you act like they're true, they might as well be. So here's what we want to do. And I'm going to give you some examples of ones that I've dealt with and the clients have dealt with so that it'll make more sense to you. One of my big limiting beliefs is around money. Because you can imagine having gone from a trial attorney, paid well, knew where my income was coming from, nice and secure, to becoming a life coach and a speaker and not knowing from month to month exactly what the client count was going to be or the gigs were going to be, where I was going to be doing my thing. It was hard to put myself in an abundance consciousness to think about having enough money. So what I found was my thought pattern, my limiting belief was, I can only be financially secure if I get a paycheck every week. Well, that isn't necessarily true, but if I operate as if it's true, I'm not going to ever really be able to make this transition into self-employed life coach and speaker. So what I decided to do about it was, I decided to look into whether or not it was really true. Is that the only way I can get financial security? Well, how do other people that are life coaches and speakers and self-employed and independent contractors, how do they do it? Well, I started asking people in my coaching training program, the instructors and the people that were further along the trail, and started talking to them about how do you not get too afraid about money and let it derail you. And I started hearing things like, well, I trust that I am doing the work I'm supposed to be doing. I plant seeds every day, and I find that some of those seeds come back to bear fruit at the most interesting times. I allow myself to show up naturally and be who I'm supposed to be my best person, be my best self, and connect with people in an authentic way. And I started hearing different thought patterns that people had about money. And I went, wow, if I could adopt that thought pattern, it would really be helpful. And I was actually working with a life coach, a mentor coach at the time, and she said, the next time you go to a speaking engagement, I want you to show up and not worry about, ooh, was that person smiling at me? Are they going to come up afterward and want to coach with me? Ooh, am I going to get more work from this thing? Don't think about it consciously. Just be your authentic self and know that you are going to make connections. And so I did that. And I was shocked to find out that I did make connections, that things were easier and that they happened more naturally. And so what it showed me was if I tried on a new way of thinking and saw what happened, I might get some evidence to prove that my new way of thinking actually had merit. And that's really the process that I want you to think about is this thought the only thought I could have about this? Is this the most productive thought? Is this thought getting me what I want? And if it's not, what alternative thought could I have about this? What else could I put into my thinking process that might get me different results? And then start looking, or try it on. It's like putting on somebody else's clothes. It doesn't completely feel natural, but put it on, move through the world as if you believe it, kind of fake it till you make it, and see what evidence shows up. And I'll tell you what, when new evidence starts showing up that this new process works, you're going to want to stay with it. You're going to remember it. You're going to try it on more often. Now, it might have taken you 30, 40, 50 years to get your old thought process in place. It doesn't take 30 or 40 years to undo it. It takes about 3 to 6 months of consciously trying on your new thought, deciding it's something that's getting you more of what you want, and you will be amazed how quickly that path in your brain can now be worked on, can now be made clear. Another example, I have a client who decided to leave a secure job as a medical writer working for a large company and become an independent freelance medical writer. But her thought process was, I can't say no to any work that comes my way because I don't know for sure if I'm going to get lots of work. I'm not sure if I'm qualified, so I got to say yes to everybody and make everybody happy. Well, you can imagine, about 6 months into her new work, she was overwhelmed because she said yes to way too much work and wasn't able to get the work done in a timely manner and make people happy. So the things she actually wanted to do, she was sabotaging by having too much work. So I worked with her on a different thought process, which is, I can trust myself to say yes and no to pieces of work. I can say no and more work will still come because I'll do the work that I'm doing better. I'll get a better reputation and I can be even more choosy and selective about the kind of work that I do. Well, now a year and a half later, she's got a much more balanced life. She's enjoying the clients she has and she's given herself permission to say no to some of the dud clients. I had another client, a gentleman, who really wanted to leave his secure, stable job working for the state of Washington and go work for a much more exciting entrepreneurial environmental firm. But he had this thought in his mind that his dad told him, which was, never leave a secure job. Never go out and try something different because there's risk, there's danger. Don't ever look a gift horse in the mouth. Stay where you are even if you don't like it anymore. Well, he knew that really wasn't true because he was smart, talented, and capable, but he couldn't find a way to give himself permission to do the exciting thing. So we worked on what would be a different mindset. The mindset would be, I have skills and talents that I can take anywhere, and I will always be able to find work because what I do is unique and is in high demand. And after a few months, that was able to sink in, and he was able to make the transition. So these things are real. These things are powerful. And you need to take the time to ask yourself, what are the thoughts and how can I take away their power. Okay, now the fourth area that I want to talk about is self-care, energy. How can you make this journey of having this be your best year yet, 2013, if you don't have a full energy tank? Well, guess what? You won't. Energy is so important, and it's probably the thing that most people I talk to overlook the most. Think about it. Have you ever been really tired and really drained and really exhausted and tried to do something? And it just felt like you were moving uphill. It was hard. It was difficult. And then you said, finally, forget it. I'm going to have to come back and do it tomorrow when I'm more fresh. And that's what you do. You get some sleep, you get some perspective, you get a break, and you come back at it. You got some energy in your tank. Don't you find, oh, it goes easily. Oh, that wasn't so hard. Oh, yeah, I'm in flow now. Yeah, that's the point you need to keep reminding yourself. Your tank must be full. Every single day you are alive, you are giving away energy. You are probably still, having a good life, but you're giving away energy just to get up and get through the world and interact with people, get through your job, do your family thing, maybe have a little time for you. It takes energy. You need to be replenishing your energy tank all the time. So what does that look like? That looks like stopping and doing a few things consciously. The first is the easiest. Stop and breathe. Take some breathing breaks throughout the day. They've done studies on how long you can be productive doing something in one mental mode, in one way, without losing productivity. And it's actually about 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, you are going to lose productivity. So you need to set an alarm at maximum 2 hours. Okay, I'll give you a little extra, but maximum 2 hours. Have a little alarm go off on your computer or your watch or your cell phone, and have it say, breathe. Stop and breathe. Put yourself away from your computer, go look at some beautiful scenery, take your shoes off, plant your feet on the ground, take a few deep cleansing breaths. I even suggest you might want to set yourself up to have a Calgon Take Me Away moment. Remember that great commercial, the Calgon Take Me Away, the woman in the bathtub going, take me away, and she went to a beautiful rainforest or whatever. Well, you can do one of those. Bring some pictures to work. Bring in something that reminds you of a great trip you took or a place you were that you love to be, that you feel great, and just think about it. Take some deep breaths. Sometimes our brain doesn't know the difference between actually being there and recalling the experience. So breathing, deep breathing, cleansing breaths, it's an amazing feat what they can do for you if you stop and breathe throughout the day. Another one is know what fills your tank as far as self-care. What do you need to do for yourself? Do you need to, go to your man cave and tootle around with some tools and have some fun making something? Do you need to go to your, bathroom and have a great bubble bath? Do you need to schedule a massage, a pedicure? Do you need to spend some time with your pet, your dog or your cat, and love them? Do you need to talk to a great friend who can just make you laugh and put things in perspective? What do you love to do that fills your tank? That could be really quality self-care. Know what those things are and do them. Now, most people, when I say this, the little voice says inside of them, that's selfish. That's spending time on you when you could be spending time on other people. That's about being selfish. And I say, phooey. That's about being self-full. Okay? You are no good to anybody else in your life if your tank isn't full. In fact, I used to think it had to be full. Now I think it has to be overflowing. Okay? Because if your tank isn't so full that it's overflowing, it's going to get depleted pretty quickly. So try to think about getting your tank up to the top and even spilling over so that you have plenty to give to other people. This is not selfish, it's being self-full. Another really important thing to think of when you think of your self-care is your community. And we're going to talk a lot more about community in my next talk in February. I'm going to really give you some concrete things to do to build your community and have a more rich community. But I want you to start thinking about that now. Do you have the right combination of people in your life? Do you have good friends? Have you dealt with the energy drainers, what I call energy vampires? and move them out of your life? Do you have enough people that you like to be around that have common interests, that spark your attention? Think about your community and connect with them a little bit more often. People are so important. You know, they've done studies on what makes people live the longest, and one of the things is a rich community. So this is about filling your tank and being your best. Finally, I'm going to wrap up and give you a couple minutes for questions. My final thought on self-care is this. Figure out what you need to do to connect with your spirit and your soul. It's different for everybody. For some people, it's organized religion. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's a great walk in nature. For some people, it's getting away by themselves for a whole day and just being able to do what they feel like doing. But you know the things that you need to do that fill that spirit place. Know what those are and go back to them. When you're feeling depleted, remember that you need to have that part, that soul part, that spirit part filled as well. So figure out what those things are, and I've given you a space on the workbook to write down the things that you can do in all 4 of those areas to fill your tank. But it's really important that you do it, and you do it often. So I know I've thrown a lot at you. Hopefully I've gotten you interested. You can pick one of these areas that resonates more with you and focus on it. You can do all 4 of them. I would suggest that maybe what you do over the next week or 2, find a coffee house, find a great overlook, find a great comfortable spot in front of a fireplace, come down to southern Utah and go into Zion, do something like that, and go to a place that you love and feel good and give some more thought to these things. Now, I want to leave a little bit of room for questions or comments, so please feel free. Anything I've said that's made you think it works, it doesn't work, you're curious about it, tell me any way I can help you a little bit more with them. Questions and answers. No?
Will you talk just a little bit more about what you're going to do?
Sure. What we're going to do in February, that is going to kind of be taking this to another level. This is called, the next talk is called Life is Not a Dress Rehearsal. 3 steps to get the life that you want now. And I'm going to give you a tool called the Life Compass tool that's really going to give you more detail on what you want your life to really look like in the areas of health, love, money, and time. So I'm going to give you some more guidance on how to really break out what you want your life to look like. And then we're going to talk about how you can take the macro, all the things you want your life to look like, and create a quarterly focus list. So quarter by quarter, you get this done. And I'm also going to be talking a lot more about that whole energy piece. What are the other things that I have discovered that derail people when it comes to energy? I gave you the fueling part today, what you can do to increase your tank. What I'm going to do on next time we get together is talk about how you can plug the holes in your energy tank, how you can figure out who are the energy vampires, when there's technology overload, when you're trying to solve other people's problems and that's not your job to fix, what you can do to make those energy problems go away. So it's a nice 1-2 combination we have from today to next time. I think you'll really enjoy it. So if you give a little bit of thought to some of these things that I've given you today, you'll be even more prepared to do some more intense work when we meet on February 10th? 12th, so we're 12th. Okay. Great. Well, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you. I felt your energy. I felt your interest. I appreciate it. Talk among yourselves for the next month about these ideas, and I'll come back with some more things in a little bit. So thank you so much. Thank you.